Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Nutrition Kitchen, the science behind. I'm with my nutrition guru, Sahra Pak.
Hey Keon, so let's talk about tacos. Show me what you cooked up with Chef Pollard today.
I got you. So my level 1 is my typical taco made with a flour tortilla, ground beef, and shredded cheese. And then I got my level 2 here, a corn tortilla with a mixture of ground beef and black beans, cheese, grape tomatoes, and then my level 3 is a burrito bowl with cauliflower and whole grain brown rice instead of a tortilla. So Sahra, can you tell me about my level 1 tacos?
Sure, as always, we want to know what our food is made of and how it's processed. So let's start with the flour tortilla. Flour tortillas are similar to other flour-based products like bread and pancakes. They all come from wheat. They all use flour, water, salt, and a leavening ingredient to create carbon dioxide bubbles, which provide the doughy texture. Bread uses yeast as leavening, but flour tortillas use the chemical reaction of an acid and a base. Even though tortillas are pretty flat, this leavening provides some thickness and also prevents the tortillas from being translucent or see-through. Apparently, consumers don't really like to see through their tortillas.
Yeah, I can see that. That actually sounds pretty weird.
And most flour tortillas, just like bread and pancakes, are made with enriched flour. That means the grains have gone through a milling process that strips the bran and the germ parts of the grain, which happens to be a rich source of nutrients.
Enriched flour is a topic that comes up a lot in these recipes, isn't it?
Yes, that's because it's everywhere in breads, cereals, pancakes, tortillas, pastas, pizza dough, and so much more. Keon, do you want to guess the percentage of these grain-based foods that Americans eat are made from enriched flours and other refined grains?
Let's see, about 50%?
Not a bad guess. That's the goal that the dietary guidelines for Americans are trying to reach. But right now, it's over 84%. 84%! They are one of the primary reasons carbohydrates get a bad rap because enriched flour has a lousy carbohydrate package. It has a lot of calories, very few nutrients, and is heavily processed. But this is very different from level 3 carbohydrate packages like beans and fruits, which are lower in calories, rich in nutrients, and minimally processed. Or level 2 carbohydrate packages like our corn tortillas.
Usually at this point, you're telling me to choose 100% whole grain substitutes. So why are you picking corn tortillas instead of 100% whole wheat tortillas?
So although 100% whole wheat flour tortillas are an upgrade, there is an ingredient in both of these tortillas, white and whole wheat, that we would prefer to avoid. That ingredient is processed fat, like lard, palm oil, or most often vegetable shortening. Vegetable shortening is usually 100% fat, even more concentrated than things like butter and oils. In tortillas, vegetable shortening helps keep the dough lubricated for easy handling. It also makes the tortilla more pliable, so you can load it with ingredients or bend it in half without it breaking open.
Ooh, do I even want to know where shortening comes from?
Well, shortening is most commonly made from vegetable oils like corn, soybean, or cottonseed oil. These oils are naturally liquid at room temperature. So to create a thicker, more solid texture for certain types of cooking and baking, the chemical structure of the oil has traditionally been changed through a process called partial hydrogenation. But as of January 2021, the FDA required that all foods no longer include partially hydrogenated oils, a type of trans fat, because they were harmful. So instead, food manufacturers started processing oils in different ways to create the same semi-solid texture for vegetable shortening. One of these different ways is called interesterification.
That sounds made up. That can't be real.
Well, no, it is a real thing. But in order to understand interesterification, you need to understand the basic structure of dietary fats. 95% of dietary fats are triacylglycerols. They resemble a pitchfork with a glycerol backbone and 3 fatty acids attached. Interesterification is the process of swapping or rearranging fatty acids, the little tines of the pitchfork. This process can change the fat's properties like its texture and melting point. Unfortunately, there's not much data about the health effects of interesterified fats in humans, partly because they aren't required to be on the nutrition label, so we aren't sure how much is being made or eaten. But personally, I would avoid these kind of hyper-processed fats while we're waiting for that research.
Ooh, sheesh. Rearranging molecules, that sounds like it's highly processed. So how are corn tortillas different?
Well, for starters, corn tortillas have been made for centuries in Hispanic cultures long before we knew how to rearrange fat molecules. But when it comes to commercial corn and flour tortillas, the major differences are their ingredients and the dough mixing process. While flour tortillas are typically made with enriched flour or occasionally whole wheat flour, corn tortillas are made with masa flour.
And masa flour means what exactly?
It refers to the nixtamalization or alkaline processing of corn.
Oh great, more made up words.
I'm not making this stuff up. Nixtamalization is a fancy term for cooking the corn in a solution of water and lime.
Okay, lime, like the fruit.
Not quite, but it is spelled the same. This lime refers to a mineral compound like calcium hydroxide. After the mixture of corn and water and lime is cooked, steeped, drained, and rinsed several times, it's ground into a wet dough and dried into flour, which removes some of the germ and its beneficial fats, along with most of the bran and all of its nutrients. The result is masa flour or masa harina, which is used to make corn tortillas.
So corn tortillas aren't considered whole grain.
That's correct. Even though intact corn kernels are whole grains, the masa flour isn't considered whole grain after processing. Interestingly, the nixtamalization process helps unlock additional protein and vitamin B3 from corn that we might not otherwise be able to digest, and the masa absorbs calcium from the water-lime solution. But many other nutrients are lost. Even so, corn tortillas are still an upgrade over most flour tortillas because of all of the ingredients they don't add, like vegetable shortening acids, preservatives, and dough conditioners.
Okay, good to know. So what about our level 3 option? It's brown rice and cauliflower.
We'll go into depth about cauliflower in a later episode, but brown rice is high in nutrients, minimally processed, and it is an intact whole grain, meaning it keeps all the benefits of its structure. The one downside of brown rice is that it is pretty low in fiber, so it isn't as filling as some other intact whole grains. So we recommend limiting the total amount of brown rice to about a quarter of your dish, or mixing it with plenty of other foods.
All right, well, let's talk about the stuff that goes in the taco. Can you give me a rundown on ground beef, please?
Sure, there are lots of different cuts of beef which come from different parts of the cow. In general, higher quality cuts have more fat mixed into the muscle called marbling, which keeps the meat tender and flavorful as it cooks. This is how beef is graded. Prime beef has the most marbling, then choice beef, then select beef, then standard or commercial beef. Did you know there's a term for marbling in human muscle too?
Oh no, I've never heard of that.
Well, it's called intramuscular adipose tissue, and it's associated with things like type 2 diabetes and decreased muscle strength. It's a type of ectopic fat, which is a harmful type of fat found in places like the liver and the abdominal cavity. This specific type of ectopic fat is found in skeletal muscle.
Wait, hold on. So this harmful fat in our muscles is just like the marbling in high quality beef? That doesn't sound like marbling would be good for the cows or us. Anyway, I'm guessing our ground beef didn't make one of those top grades then?
Correct. Ground beef is either made from the trimmings of other cuts or from lower grades of beef from the cow or several different cows. By definition, it can be made from fresh or frozen beef with or without seasonings, with a maximum of 30% fat without any added beef fat. It can't have any added water, phosphates, binders, or extenders. So ground beef with a maximum amount of fat, 30%, is also known as 70% lean. But there are other lean fat combinations like 80-20, 90-10, and lots of others. But from a nutritional standpoint, no matter what combo of lean to fat, ground beef is relatively high in saturated fat.
Ooh, that sounds bad.
It's not really good. Although some saturated fats like stearic acid may not raise LDL cholesterol, the vast majority of saturated fats do. And both red meat and white meat raise LDL cholesterol compared to plant protein packages, even when controlling the amount of saturated fat in them. So although we are still trying to figure out which foods raise the most harmful types of LDL cholesterol, it is really best to limit all saturated fats.
Okay, but why do we care about this LDL cholesterol so much?
Well, increased LDL cholesterol levels increase the risk of cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and strokes. There are some nutrition myths that saturated fats and elevated LDL cholesterol levels are not harmful for health. This is not true. Those myths are based on weak evidence or unproven theories. The actual data is very clear. Elevated LDL cholesterol increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, and that's why foods rich in saturated fats are a mission top threat. Now, it's true that foods rich in saturated fat like ground beef can have several other beneficial nutrients, but we can get these nutrients from food that come in an upgraded package with less or no baggage, like the saturated fat.
Oh, like black beans.
Exactly. Black beans are rich in nutrients like protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. And they're minimally processed, inexpensive, and quick to prepare. Black beans are great options to use in tacos or burrito bowls. Aim to substitute at least half of your meat with beans, like a chili. Even 50-50 mixes definitely count as an upgrade.
That sounds like a win-win-win substitute, and it tasted good. I eventually tried the meat and bean tortilla after that burrito bowl. So what about our other ingredients?
Well, cheese is a big topic we cover in other episodes. But for this recipe, I'll just say, use as little as you need to make it taste good to you. As for the other ingredients, avocado, pepper, and grape tomatoes are all rich in nutrients and minimally processed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sahra, for sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure.
All right, well, let's gear up for episode 5 where we level up spaghetti and meatballs. And we're out.